Good evening, or morning, or whenever you're watching. Women Warriors channel, Myra here, and I have another reading tonight of Truly's Travels, chapter 16 and 17. Doubting Castle and Key of Promise is the titles of the chapters tonight. They're a little bit longer than usual, but not by much, and so I'll try to read fast and hope you enjoy it. If you're familiar with Pilgrim's Progress at all, you probably remember the story of the Doubting Castle, which is where I got the inspiration for this in this book. It just has such a beautiful message for us at the end with the Key of Promise, and I hope you like it as much as I do. Doubting Castle. After a few days' journey from the Pilgrim's Rest area, the path began to be filled with rocks, which made walking very hard. Auntie and Uncle noticed that the children got tired easily walking on the rocks, so they stopped often to rest. The next day they started on the path after a nice rest, and before long the family came upon a beautiful meadow just off the path. It was called Bypath Meadow. No one knew the name of the path, only that it was beautiful. Also, they couldn't help but notice how easy walking would be there, much easier than walking on the rocks. Truly said, "Let's walk in the meadow, Uncle. It would be so much nicer." "We shouldn't get off the path," Truly said bravely. "But I do not like walking on these rocks," bravely said Truly. "It's harder walking on them. It hurts my feet and the back of my legs, and I'm tired." "I know you are tired, Truly. So am I," said Uncle. "But we should stay on the path. The path will get easier before long. I know the rocks won't go on forever." After a little while, the way was not easier, and Truly was becoming frustrated. Auntie suggested that they rest again. As they sat and rested, Auntie passed around some food for everyone. The family began to talk about the way. "I still think we should go into the meadow," Truly said quietly. "Truly, don't be dumb," said Bravely sharply. "You can see that the path in the meadow is leading away from the celestial city." "You don't have to call names, Bravely," said Truly with a hurt look. "All right, children, arguing is not what we need right now," said Auntie. "But, Uncle, I too think we should try the meadow. It looks so peaceful and restful. Can we just try it for a few hours?" "I suppose so," said Uncle. Bravely started to say something, but he knew it was no good. He was outnumbered. He hoped he would be wrong about the path. After a few hours walking in the meadow, Bravely had to admit that it was much easier going. However, he was concerned about the path and kept his eye on the way. "I still think we're going the wrong way," he told them. As the day drew to evening, Auntie also became concerned. "Uncle, this doesn't look right. Maybe we should go back to the other path." Bravely was relieved and said, "I'm sure we should." "But it's such a nice path," Truly said. "You're just being mean, Bravely. I don't understand. Why don't you want us to enjoy the way and have an easier time of it as we go along?" "Truly," Bravely said, trying to be patient, "I do want us to enjoy the way. But as you know, it's not always easy to be a pilgrim on this journey. We need to be ever watchful and stay on the straight and narrow path that the book tells us about." "Well," said Auntie, "let's all stop for the night. It's almost dark and we're all tired. Look, here is a nice shelter just off the path, and it looks big enough for all of us. Come, family, let's rest and decide what to do in the morning." "Yes," said Uncle, "everything will be clearer after we've rested." The group settled into the shelter. They were all very tired, and soon Auntie, Bravely, and Truly were sound asleep. No one noticed they had forgotten to pray before sleeping. Uncle tried to sleep but couldn't. He was worried about the path. Uncle carried the responsibility of the group and felt a burden for the safety of his loved ones. He was just about to wake up the group and tell them that he felt that they must go back to the other path when he heard a loud roaring and stomping on the ground. The others woke with a start. The noise was from Giant Despair, the king of Doubting Castle. As he got closer to the little shelter, he began shouting at them. "What are you doing in my shelter, here on my grounds? You are trespassing. You will come to my dungeon now." As he said this, he motioned to his guards to take the group to his dungeon. The guards did as the giant demanded, and they roughly led them to the castle. It was a huge place. The castle was so tall that the family could not see the tops of it, but they could see that it was a dark, dreary, scary place. There were overgrown weeds and a dense fog around the castle. There were faint sounds of the howling of wolves in the distance. Truly was more afraid than at any time in her life. Giant Despair was indeed a giant, very tall, and his appearance was like a monster. Parts of his face were misshapen, and there were ugly warts on his nose and forehead. His hair looked like it had never before been washed or combed. He shouted at the pilgrims all along the way to the castle. Uncle and Bravely were watchful all along the way, looking for a way to escape, but the giant and the guards made sure there was no chance of that. Truly was so tired it seemed that the way to the dungeon was going to take forever. And after they went through the tall doors of the castle, they turned into one dark hallway after another, downstairs and through doorways until they finally reached the dungeon. The guards pushed them all into the dark, damp, musty room. They left them lying on the floor and locked the door as they left. Truly began to cry softly. Auntie held her as they all huddled together in fear. Chapter 17, The Key of Promise. It was a rough night that night. No one slept. They talked about what happened. "I'm so sorry, everyone. It's all my fault. If only we had stayed on the path," said Truly sincerely. I'm very sorry, Bravely. You tried to warn us." "I'm sorry I argued and called you names, Truly. I should have acted with more patience. Can you forgive me?" "Of course, Bravely, if you will forgive me," said Truly. "Uncle, what are we going to do?" "Well, we need to get out of here," he said with confidence and hope. "Bravely, you and Truly look for some way out at the door and along the wall. Auntie, you and I will check out this window." They worked for hours, but there was no way out of that room. They were very tired and in need of some sleep, so at last they all lay down on the cold, hard floor and fell asleep. In the morning, the sound of someone unlocking the door woke the family. It was the giant. He was shouting at them again. "You are never going to get out of here," he screamed. "You will all die here." He laughed at them and then left. The family all began to understand why his name was Giant Despair. For the next few days the giant came to them, shouted at them to give up, and that they were all doomed. Sometimes he took Uncle away and beat him. When the guards brought him back to the dungeon, he was bruised and weak. Each one of the pilgrims was sad, spending their time thinking about the choices they made in their lives and the mistakes they had made. They all began to doubt and despair of life. After a week, Bravely began to pray for their deliverance. Truly heard him praying, and she started to pray too. She wondered why they hadn't prayed that first night they had been captured. Uncle and Auntie also began praying. They felt comforted. The more they prayed and reached out to the King of Kings for help, the more they felt his presence there with them. They began to have peace in their hearts. Truly then knew that everything would be okay. She didn't know how, but she knew she could trust the King of Kings. As they were praying together one evening, Uncle got up and began shouting, "Auntie, bravely, truly, I have the answer right here. It's the key of promise which was given to us at the place of deliverance. Remember? It will unlock any door." The excited family got up and headed to the door. Sure enough, the key opened the door. Uncle led them out into the hallway. He led them all quietly out of the castle. He did not know the way, but as he turned down this hallway and up those stairs, he recalled the words of the book. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path." And that's in Proverbs chapter 3. And so it was. With the help of the King of Kings, they found their way out. There were no guards anywhere. Once they were on the grounds of the castle, they began to run and did not stop until they were away from the grasp of Giant Despair. It was truly a miracle. The king in whom they had trusted had delivered them once again. Back in the castle, the giant came to the room where he had been keeping the prisoners. As soon as he opened the door and saw that they had escaped, he began to shout and scream. Giant Despair was truly in despair. He threw his huge body on the ground and kicked his feet around like someone throwing a tantrum. But it was all for nothing. The family was all safe and sound and far away from his reach. The family soon found a safe little glen and settled down to rest. After they were all rested, they talked of their escape from Doubting Castle. Truly asked, "Why did we not remember to pray right away when we were captured, Uncle?" "Well, I think we all felt guilty, Truly. Maybe we felt that we didn't deserve God's help. Then I began to be so busy trying to get out by myself without God's help. It's not that I did not want God's help. I just tried to do it on my own. But we do need God's help, even when we stumble or fall. He is merciful and will forgive us. Remember the book says his compassions are new every morning, Lamentations 3. "Yes," said Auntie, "it has been an important lesson. So let's be off," said bravely. I'm so excited to get to the Celestial City." And that's the end of chapter 17. So next time, chapter 18, Truly meets a friend. So I hope you loved that story about Doubting Castle and them the found family having the answer all along, and it was asking help from God, from the King. And I will say goodnight, and until next time, have a blessed week.